subscribe button to subscribe to our channel. Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Are you planning to appear for UPSC Civil Services 2020? You must be working hard, but in addition to hard work, it requires right guidance and proper strategy to succeed in the exam. Vision IAS, with its expertise in guiding aspirants to success year after year, has come up with foundation course for General Studies Prelims and Mains 2020. A comprehensive course to give right direction to your hard work. Course features are comprehensive coverage of syllabus, continuous individual assessment through daily assignments, mini tests and test series, relevant and up-to-date study material, access to all live and recorded classes at online personal student platform, includes our All India Test Series for Prelims, GS Mains and Essay, includes current affairs programs, PT 365 and Mains 365. Available in classroom and online mode in English and Hindi medium. Join the Foundation Course 2020 to gain an edge over the competition.
Okay. Ready? Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted, happy, and overwhelmed with joy to have the opportunity to interact with you. First of all, let me congratulate all of you who have cleared the prelims and might have appeared for mains. I congratulate them because of one reason. It takes a lot of courage to think of appearing for the civil service examination, considering the number of posts and the number of people who take the examination. Okay? So you have achieved already a lot. You are achievers. Those of you who have taken the decision to appear, my hat's off to you. You are the brave and the courageous for two reasons. One, you opted for civil service as career, public service as a career, in an environment characterized by love of money and things associated with money. Second, the courage and the will and the determination that you have reflected, I'm sure, will stand you in good state. So, I wish you all the very best, and in this few minutes, rather some time, what I intend to do is to discuss with you the subject of personality development. Okay? What is personality? One of my friends many years ago said, rather pronounced, Dharmender has great personality. I was not quite able to appreciate this point. Yes, He might have some strong points. But personality is something more. What does it mean? If you look at the dictionary, I hope all of you have paper dictionaries. No. Please buy Oxford English Dictionary. All of you. It doesn't cost you much. Why is it necessary? It's because when you open dictionary to look for the meaning of a particular word, you not only know that meaning of that word, but also you get to see so many other words on that particular page. That enhances your vocabulary, your articulation. So for heaven's sake, please buy Oxford English Dictionary. Okay? Now, the word personality is derived from the Latin word persona. What does it mean? It means parts of a person, the qualities of a person. Now, this is not a static matter. The personality, that is qualities of head and heart, which form a person's character, keep on changing. You agree with that? It keeps on changing. It's not static. So, Vivekananda defined personality and character in a simple manner. The way you think, the way you talk, the way you look at the environment, make your judgments, constitute your character. So there's a difference between personality and character. Why? Because character has certain traits which get developed, matured at an early stage. And some of the things don't change. Whereas a man's personality might influence formation of character and even change of a person's attitudes. Now, attitudes are formed by what the famous sociologist, who is no more, Hannah Arendt, you know about her? Hannah Arendt, great Jewish humanist. She used an expression, lived experience, quote and unquote. The lived experience determines your attitudes. The Jews who survived the concentration camps, they had experienced something unique. And therefore, the character of people are greatly influenced by what is called lived experience. Lived experience of a Dalit in India, even now, is different. So, one must have some kind of an empathy. This point is very important, that personality essentially refers to certain basic values, attitudes, ideas, thoughts, which determine your action. Okay? You know about Sigmund Freud, I don't need to go into it. There are various theories. But it boils down to, for the purpose of our civil service examination, one idea that Immanuel Kant developed, that is categorical imperative, an innate moral sense. Now this innate moral sense is there in every human being. Remember what Vivekananda said, there is divinity in every human being. The task of education is to help manifestation of that innate divinity of man. So therefore, what I'm asking you to remember is that your personality, your value systems your thought processes are reflected in your actions. And therefore, there is a scope for improvement. See, improvement is possible. It is not that a person is born with A, B, C, D and it remains A, B, C, D. No, it can be A plus, B plus, C plus. It can be A minus also, depending on the kind of experience that one had to go through. So, sum total of all this is character. The purpose of this program is to enable you to develop a capacity for self-introspection. Just think of yourself dispassionately and find out in your way. There's no standard operating procedure to do it, but it is highly individualistic. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And therefore, what we can think of is to devise a program to help you to develop your personality. Now, this ends this portion dealing with personality. Now, I want you to suggest if you feel anything that I have missed or anything you would like to know, because now I'll switch over to relating personality to civil service. That is civil service specific personality, which will be tested when you appear for interview. Before that, I would like you to tell me whether you agree with the proposition that I have tried to explain to you. Broadly, any doubt, please let me know. Any question? No. Then, ladies and gentlemen, let me switch over to this core issue. Civil service specific personality. Okay? Now, suppose you want to join Indian Army. The requirements are different, physical as well as mental. So every cadre would require a certain set of characteristics, qualities. What is called QR, Qualification Requirements. The QR is the function of your personality. Okay? So, what are the qualification requirements of civil service? Okay? Before that, since we all decided to appear for civil service, could any of you help me to define civil service? Just tell me. I'm sure you must have given a lot of thought before you decided to embark on this journey. What is civil service, according to you? I'd like to know how the youngsters who are trying to join my tribe think about civil service. Then I'll tell you how I thought of it when I joined civil service, so that we can have an exchange of some kind of thoughts and ideas. Tell me, what is civil service? Can you define civil service? Please.
Civil services, two terms, civil and services. What I think is the services for civilization. And within the civil services, there are various categories, say IAS, IPS. So these are the unique domains of the civilization in which we go and serve.
Good. Honest thoughts. Any other view? Yes. Yes, tell me.
Executives and the judiciary.
Okay.
This is
Any
what
other?
is the definition.
So civil services is a platform in which what the people are required. It means that the government revenue is generated from the people itself. So what the people are needed, so the civil servants are there enough to proper implementation of schemes given by the government, and at ground level, so the people's satisfaction is a main important theme a civil servant must follow, sir. And then this is the main point of a civil servant.
I asked you to define civil service. What does it mean, by the way?
Sir,
Yeah.
let me try. Civil service means a service to the people, be it a business or any government. It does. It's a broad dimension. It means just a service to the people.
Okay. Any other thought? Yeah.
Sir, it is a basic service which relates for the welfare of the society, sir.
Okay. Then what's the difference between an NGO and the civil service, according to your definition?
But it is the governmental organization by which government has its parts and
What is government?
a form of people ruling party, sir.
Okay. What's the difference between Saudi Arabian government and government of India? Could you give some thought?
Sorry, sir, because I
Okay.
have not.
Fine, gentlemen. Whatever you said, I'm sure would make some sense in some context or the other. But that is not the meaning of civil service. Yes? Right. You are dead right. You see, Oxford Dictionary defines civil service as all posts under the government, the cost of which is borne on the civil side of the budget. That is, all posts of the government, the cost of which is made from the provisions allocated to the civil side of the budget. That is the British definition. And we have been following it because, let me tell you at the outset, we are, quote and unquote, a common law country. Any of you is law graduate? Any of you? No. That's sad. Okay. What is common law? I suggest you buy a small pamphlet, not pamphlet, really a book, by Fali S. Noriman. Do you know who is he? Any of you? Who is he? Fali S. Noriman.
Solicitor General of India.
Okay. Any other thought? Yes. He is a jurist. That's the term we use. Fali S. Noriman has written a book, Penguin edition, paperback, India's Judicial System. Can it survive? You must buy that. Common law means, a common law country means a country that follows the British principles of jurisprudence, precedents, conventions, and procedures in letter and spirit. And therefore, English language is the language of administration of this country. Because we are following the British laws not in only letter but in spirit and the principles contained in the British laws. Okay? Now together, if you put A plus B, that is civil service plus common law, you must apply your mind to find a definition of civil service. Now, during our mock interviews, I often ask candidates, Mr. So-and-so, why do you wish to leave your pretty lucrative career and join civil service? The answer is, sir, I'd like to devote my service to the cause of the poor and the downtrodden and to pay back to the society that I owe to them. Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Why? Because primarily, take my words, civil service is responsible for enforcement of laws and implementation of policies which have the force of law. Civil servant, therefore, is the creation of law. Accountable to the law, that is, designated agencies responsible for overseeing the actions of the civil service. As a district magistrate and collector, when I exercise power under revenue law, I come under revenue board, because whatever orders I passed can be appealed, isn't it? So this shows that whatever action you take is really in pursuance of certain provisions of law. And you are accountable to your designated superior authority, legal and administrative. So civil service primarily is a law enforcement agency. Now, why policies are having the force of law? The answer is very simple. Every policy that is implemented is backed up by financial provisions. Financial provisions are made by the legislature under what you call finance acts. Okay. Therefore, when you implement Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Program, remember there is a Manrega Act, and there is a provision made in the budget of the union government, which is passed on to the states. The budget was passed by the parliament under Finance Act. Therefore, when you engage people, help landless laborers to get jobs, you are essentially implementing the decisions of a lawfully constituted authority. You get my point? So that should be borne in mind. Okay? Any doubt on that? Anybody? Suppose you're an income tax officer. What do? You enforce provisions of the Income Tax Act. Isn't that so? Customs, Central Excise, these days pretty favored services, I find, surprisingly. It wasn't so in our time. So, it is basically law that you provide. Okay? Even the, even the services which don't have such law enforcement duties on a really significant scale, they come under law. Take the railways. You have the Indian Railways Act. Okay? Isn't it? We have the Indian Railways Act. So therefore, whatever job that you do, you may be doing, is really to administer the laws of the land. Clear? Now, ladies and gentlemen, give a thought. What kind of character and personality should a lady or a gentleman possess in good measure? May not be in full measure. Human beings are not perfect. To be able to exercise powers under the law. This is the issue that just start thinking about it and share with me. I'll put one more question. What is the relationship between the civil service and the political executive? It's a hot topic. It has been there since state as an institution took its modern form in Britain. Okay? What is a state? What is a modern state? And what exactly is the type of character expected of a person whose job will be to exercise powers? And what does this word mean, exercise of powers? Exercise of power over other citizens. A constable, a traffic constable who stands at Karol Bagh metro station, ensuring that you don't violate the signals, is an instrument of law. He is exercising powers conferred on him under Motor Vehicles Act, under Indian Penal Code, under so many statutes. So give a thought and tell me what kind of character should we expect to be able to expect of a civil servant who will be able to discharge his duties. Okay? Give a thought and let me know. Then I come over to the next section. Pardon?
Rational decision making.
Rational, okay. You see, rationality is a misused term. Adolf Hitler applied rational judgment also to do what he did. Harry S. Truman applied his rationality to decide to drop 2 atomic bombs. And it generated, in a split second, 20,000 centigrade heat. I visited Hiroshima. Japanese told me people were converted into carbon dioxide in a split second. Human beings were reduced to gases. Was that a rational decision? Humane decision? So give a thought. What kind of character, personality will be required as a kind of QR for exercising power over other citizens? Okay? And what of several values would you consider as important?
Emotional intelligence.
You see, the word emotional intelligence is not comprehensible to people of my generation. It is only when the UPSC started this kind of a course, put simpler language, which makes sense. Responsibility, yes.
Sir,
That may make you arrogant also.
sir, abiding by the constitutional values and morality and ethics.
Too broad. What do you understand by constitutional values?
So
I have not been
constitutional
able to
values that are
understand.
given in the constitution, like in the preamble, fundamental rights, the laws which we have to implement, we have to abide by the final constitutional values and the spirit of the constitution.
Yes, but what does it boil down to in simple language? You go back to John Rawls. It is justice, fairness,
Equality.
yes, impartiality. And we have to bear in mind always the public interest. Therefore, exercise of power in any sphere entails exercise of your discretion, isn't it? So your value systems are important. You get my point? So the first thought that you should have is that if you are the arbiter of destiny of many others, you have to have that kind of a approach. Dispassionate, impartial, fair, transparent, and a sense of public duty.
Sorry?
Essential for a person to discharge his functions. You should not only be fair, but, to quote and unquote, should appear to be fair to the general public. That is very important. The actions should not only be fair, but should appear to be fair to others also. Okay? Now, exercising power is a very, very important, difficult aspect. Human beings have the weakness of misusing powers. It's a part of human character and nature. Therefore, there must be some kind of a self-restraining mechanism within your system to prevent you from doing something wrong. To make this point clear, let me just share with you a hypothetical problem. Now in Delhi, getting a motor driving license is important. Now suppose you are in charge of the motor vehicles department as a civil servant. You are the final license, permanent license issuing authority. Somebody had got a driver's, what is called learner's license. After the learner's license period is over, then there has to be a test. So the test will be conducted at a certain place. Then you get a telephone call from a very important person. ये जो आ रहा है ना मेरे भतीजी है, अच्छा है लड़की, स्मार्ट है, अंग्रेजी ठीक से बोल रहा है, आप थोड़ा देख लीजिए इनका आज टेस्ट है. What do you mean by the word देख लीजिए? It's very clear. Okay. Now suppose you are the top man, you tell the motor vehicle inspector. Okay? And sir, मैं भी देख लूँगा. Now, if you look at from the character value systems of a civil servant, what have you done? Number one, just think of what is the maximum damage that you have done. Number one, you have allowed yourself to be guided by somebody else. There may not be any consideration. Maybe he is your uncle or somebody's uncle who is known to you. This is the world of uncles and aunties. You see? Therefore, but looking purely from the bureaucratic angle, number one, you have compromised public safety. The license was given to a person who would not have ordinarily passed the examination, number one. So you have endangered public's road safety. Second, you have put that person also in a potential hazardous situation. She may not know how to drive and then cause damage to her vehicle and to her body also. Third is, more importantly, from a purely bureaucratic angle. You see, the system that we have, I mentioned about the relationship between political executive and the civil service. That issue is like this. The system that the British left behind, and by and large what they developed, is based on a fundamental assessment of human character. This assessment is not based on few years' experience. It is based on hundreds of years of experience. And it boils down to three principles. Number one, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Third, nobody can be vested. Nobody means no institution can be vested with absolute power. There should be therefore checks and balances. The doctrine of separation of powers is founded on this fundamental assessment of human character and frailties of human character. Okay. Now comes the most important point. Those who make laws, lawmakers, according to British perception, are not the best persons to implement the laws. Because there is a conflict of interest. So the doctrine of conflict of interest is the foundation of modern democratic state. You know about a case that is pending in Delhi High Court involving Delhi administration on the appointment of a parliament secretary, raising the issue that it goes against the principle of conflict of interest. Okay? So what I'm trying to mention is that therefore you need to have a permanent civil service, okay, to exercise powers under laws enacted by the legislature. So the political executive is responsible for pushing legislations, for making policies, but the implementation, exercise of those powers under, say, Income Tax Act, under land revenues, under various laws, would be left to officials appointed on permanent basis. Okay? Therefore, the officials exercise powers conferred on them under the statutes by virtue of the positions they hold. You get my point? It is the chair that exercises the power. You are a temporary occupant of the chair. So you exercise that power because it is conferred on you under the statute. Okay? Therefore, there is what is called in British jurisprudence the doctrine of trust. That is, once you have the power to issue license, you are expected to do it according to the letter and spirit of law, keeping in view the concerns of public safety, road safety, matters like congestion, safety of the individuals, safety of the pedestrians who might be knocked down. Therefore, if an official, a civil servant, allows his powers to be exercised at the behest of any other person, he is betraying the trust reposed in him. It's a breach of trust. And his action is violative of public interest. Okay? So this is fundamentally the duty of the civil servant. You should be fair, just, impartial, and not allow yourself to be somebody else's instrument, which in Hindi is called chamcha. So that is the death of the concept of civil service, if you do that. So therefore, what I'm trying to impress on you is that this being the nature of the civil service responsibilities, what kind of personality, what are the traits of a person, traits of personality that should be considered essential, imperative. Okay? This is the basic aspect. I will go over to some other matters later, but this is a fundamental issue. One has to be very, very clear about it. Okay? Any thought on this? Last point is that, you see, a civil servant exercises powers conferred on her or him under the statutes. And this exercise of power has to be done in a transparent, fair, just manner, in the true letter and spirit of the law. Okay. Therefore, if you have to function in this manner, ideally, what are the traits of character required? You said rightly emotional intelligence. I will use a simpler word, empathy. Empathy. Concern for the sufferings of the people. Concern about the stakeholders. Now, what are the qualities that constitute your personality? From this, I'll go over to next point, that is how to acquire these qualities. Now, first, let us be sure about what are the qualities which are essential.
Sir, integrity, loyalty, and dedication toward nation.
Okay, fine. Then, next.
Sir, compassion.
See, passion is a difficult word.
Not sir, passion, not compassion.
Passion, is it? What you said?
Compassion.
Compassion. Okay, fine. Yes. But for whom? In general.
Towards the people, not general, but who are people suffering most, who have suffered most in the past.
Right. That's important. Okay. Anything else? Honesty. Correct. Integrity and honesty. Any other?
Self-realization of a civil servant. Whatever the acts he is going to do, he must introspect himself that whether I am doing right or wrong according to the nation development, and on what path we are, our India is laying, whether if I do these things to the people or among our citizens or society.
But could you translate these values into professional qualities? You must have read public administration at some stage. What are the professional qualities which flow from these values? Honesty, integrity. Say, honesty means I won't allow myself to be used by somebody else. That's honesty. this Dekh Lijiye case that I mentioned, how will you deal with it if you are a man? Absolutely honest. Sorry, I can't help you. Pardon?
Sense of courage.
Sense of courage. Okay. Good. Yes. Anything else? Accountability. Same. Answerability and accountability, they amount to the same. Any other thought?
Strictness.
Yes. Good. That is adherence to rules and regulations. Strict adherence to rules and regulations. Okay. Okay. Now you see, this boils down to, first, development of what I would say administrative mind. You must develop an administrative mind which is based on certain characteristics. Number one, professional competence requires attention to details. Attention to details of the matter. Second, appreciation of facts. Then appreciation of law and policy. Okay? And then finally, your decision based on merits of the case in a fair and transparent manner. For the simple reason that you are not the last authority. Whatever decision you take is subject to appeal. If a person is aggrieved by your decision, he is free to appeal against your order. And your appeal may be set aside. So when you write something, please remember two things. When you write, somebody else will see it. When you talk, somebody may hear and forget about it. But when you write, it may be seen by others. A copy may be asked for, and you are duty bound to provide the copy of your order. Suppose the appellate authority examines it and then comes out with the decision that the learned subdivision officer apparently did not apply his mind. It's a slap on your face. You did not apply your mind. So therefore, application of mind must be fair, just, and based on detailed appreciation of the case. Therefore, I mentioned that attention to details is a very major quality of the civil service. Now, these are abstract qualities in the sense not related to a particular case, but these are values which must be reflected in the way you think, the way you act, meaning the way you take decisions, because your decisions affect the lives of people, their well-being. You can't be blind to that, can you? No. Therefore, this consciousness of duty, consciousness of the impact that your action may produce on others is what is called empathy. See, your appreciation of the social needs, the individual merits of a particular case is therefore absolutely critical. To form that, you need a set of values that constitute your personality. Okay? Any doubt on this, up to this? Okay? Now you see, yeah.
Regarding conflict of interest between the political executive and the civil servant, there is a case in India many times. Let's say the past 1 or 2 years, something like that, there is a case that the DC don't want to, what to say, transfer money to the something like a welfare scheme, because thinking that from the political executive there is some a breach of trust like corruption. So there is some, to say, the DC withhold the fund for the welfare, but the executive is, what to say, too to say, thinking. So let's say there is, since the civils, the DC don't want to disburse the welfare scheme, so the politician transfer that lady to other posts. So is there any something like?
I've not been able to, frankly, understand very clearly what is the problem. But please remember, conflict of interest is an institutional problem. It is not a case-based problem.
Okay.
In theory, there cannot be any conflict of interest between the political executive and the permanent civil service, because the spheres of activities are very clearly laid down. In theory, there cannot be any conflict. It is not taking place in England, for example, because the political executive takes full responsibility for all decisions taken by the government. Till date, no permanent secretary of the British government has been charged under any criminal law, till date, because whatever decisions are taken by the government are the collective decisions of the political executive, embodied in the cabinet. Okay? So that problem is not there. These are matters of detail. And in such a situation, the legal position is very clear. So the deputy commissioner is perfectly within his rights to go by the terms and conditions of the sanction of a particular project. To give an example, Indira Awas Yojana, it is written that you could give it only to BPL category, people below poverty line families. Now there is no scope for discretion here. But if suppose you find an old lady in miserable conditions appears and pleads for allotment of land on the ground that her name was not included in the BPL list, what will you do? It is perfectly within the powers of the collector or anyone, any officer working in the field, to accept a petition for her and a statement that she is in such situation, her name was not included, and the collector or anybody would be free to pass it on to the implementing agency to consider her case and include her name in the BPL list, and thereafter make the allotment. But the framework is very clear. Okay? Now, we discuss the abstract qualities, okay? Empathy, sense of responsibility, and then compassion, and all these fall within the ambit of what is called rule of law. What is rule of law? Can you tell what is rule of law? No, rule of law, what does it mean? Is that so? Please have a thought, give a thought. Rule of law as a constitutional principle. Please say again. No.
When a deputy collector is in the office, so I think security member or a higher profile
person has came, and since for 1 hour a normal middle class person is waiting for the appointment for getting an appointment to the collector. So the rule of law must be applicable that middle class person must be taken into the consideration.
Okay. Do you have rule of law in Pakistan? Can we give thought? Or in Myanmar? You talked about constitution and all that, but tell me, do you have rule of law in Pakistan? Why? Why not? There is a law, there is a rule. Why? Give me one reason why you consider Pakistan is not having the rule of law. Where is it written in the Pakistan Constitution? Under what article of the Constitution of Pakistan this particular point that you mentioned is there? Tell me. What is rule of law? You are trying to get into civil service. This is a very fundamental principle. Tell me, what is rule of law?
Sir, it is a principle that entails that none of the person is above the law. Means every person abide by the same law and law treat every person equally in political terms.
Can you refer to some articles of the Constitution frequently quoted these days in the media?
Article 14.
Okay.
Sir.
You see, I suggest you buy D. Basu, India, an introduction to Constitution of India. Read the first chapter, first 2 chapters. Rule of law is the foundation of the parliamentary system of government of the British model, which means everybody is equal in the eye of law. Okay? What does it mean? The famous statement of P.V. Narasimha Rao, law will take its own course, is based on the principle of rule of law. Now why this question was raised by me is because you must develop a critical thinking capacity. Avoid blotting out things based on your impressions. Just apply your mind. If I'm raising this question to you, if rule of law means that everybody is equal before law, nobody is above the law, which means nobody should be below the law also. This is a very important question. It is not that people should be, nobody should be above, but nobody should be below the law. But in a country where incomes are widely, and somewhat wrongly distributed, there are people who may not have access to the system of justice. Now, just apply your mind. If rule of law means what I mentioned, do you see rule of law in Pakistan? Apply your mind and give me one reason why. Hybrid?
Privilege, sir. Privilege.
No, this is a general point. Give me one specific reason.
Sir, rule of law is absence of privilege. Absence of privilege enjoyed by everyone. Means all are equal in the eyes of law. But in Pakistan, there is a privilege because some persons are enjoying some privilege over the others. So
sir, I think Pakistan is a state based on religion. The very formation was on
Pakistan?
It's a state based on religion. So there is.
How do you say that? What provision of the Constitution of Pakistan?
Sir, actually I have not so much detailed.
This is one quality that as a civil servant you should avoid. You see, don't make a statement on the basis of your impressions. When you appear before interview and a matter is asked, please remember that the board member who is asking the question knows the answer. He's only trying to cross-check. Okay? So, what is required, expected during interview is your critical thinking capacity. You have to apply your mind. First, know the concept of rule of law and apply the concept of Pakistan.
Sir,
You see, persecution may be taking place in many countries of the world. Persecution per se is a matter to be handled by law, by the law enforcement agency. Jews are persecuted in America in some areas. In France, for example, today, Jews are persecuted.
Sir, Pakistan has a one religion. So individual have a indulge in a religious practice, not in a pressure.
Okay. I would suggest that you should choose your words carefully. Tell me.
Pakistani constitution is guided by, it start like this, that in the name of sovereign Allah. And so they put the Allah, their God above law. And in general, just like you said in British system, law is not above everybody, not above everyone, anyone, but through the consensus of people, a rule of law is established. Like in our constitution, the preamble starts for "We the people of India, having solemnly resolved," and it starts by this, and thus declares India a democratic, republic, socialist, secular nation.
Okay, great. All these have definitely helped me to understand how you think about it. But let me just tell you. You see, equality before law and equal treatment by law enforcement agencies are derived from the concept of rule of law. Now, why Pakistan is not considered a democratic country? Please visit the site of the Global Democracy Index of the Economist News magazine, what is called Intelligence Unit of the Economist News magazine, published from London. Now they have examined the character of states and put a number of countries in full democracies, where democratic principles are fully enforced. Okay? Then there is a second category of flawed democracy. Flawed, F-L-A-W-E-D. Third is you have the hybrid states, which have some characteristics of democracy and some authoritarian. And finally, you have the authoritarian states. Pakistan is placed in the hybrid category. And why rule of law is not there? Simple reason. Pakistan has the blasphemy laws. It is open to a Muslim to speak, to abuse any other faiths. But similar right is not enjoyed by the non-Muslims. You know about so many cases. So therefore, rule of law is the foundation of a modern democratic state. You ought to understand it. So what is necessary as a part of personality development is a spirit of inquiry. When you read something, please look beyond the printed words. Apply your mind. The administrative mind requires, that's I said, attention to details and a spirit of inquiry, unbounded curiosity, interest in other cultures and societies, and not just casual acquaintance. No, a little more, to be able to form a definite correct idea. So therefore, during personality test, whatever you open, whatever you say, whatever comes out of your mouth, must be based on some thought, not impressions. There's a huge difference. Therefore, what I suggest, the first aspect of personality development for civil service is development of constructive interest in the affairs of your country, neighborhood, and a similar interest in issues like, say, climate change, global warming, like that. And relate the basic concepts. In other words, the basic concepts must be very clear. No ambiguity about it. How do you explain characterize, say, Saudi Arabia as a state, or Turkey, or China, or Myanmar, or close neighbor? So, you must understand what are the basic characteristics of a modern state. India is a modern state. Civil service is a wing of the executive of India, that is modern state. What are the foundations of the modern state? This must be a part of your essential, what you call value systems. Why I'm saying value systems? Because you won't be able to compromise with any of this. If you compromise it, you betray your trust, betray the trust reposed in you. Because whatever powers you exercise are within the framework of constitutional morality, founded on rule of law, justice and fairness. Okay? Fine. So now, what are the traits of personality expected of a candidate who is appearing for, say, interview or appearing for the civil service? Give me some thoughts, then we can proceed.
Sir, no kind of false portraying?
Yes, that's correct. Because it will be found out very soon.
Sir, second one is smartness.
What do you mean by smartness? Can you define?
In terms of caliber, in terms of your looks, observation of your body and your personality, I'd say.
You have expanded the definition of personality somewhat. Oh, no. Okay. Then?
Smartness to cope up the political pressure. Smartness to cope up the political pressure. Suppose a bidding is going to take place, the political pressure is, it will be compulsory, it means that it may take place. Then he must act in a way that if it take place, then our parties, it means our government is going to lose the recognition among our people, sir. So loss of our people's, it means that satisfaction will be degraded.
Okay, but
and then also the ability to
your responses relate to some hypothetical situations.
The situations are within our in front of our eyes only, no sir. Suppose if a project or if any, suppose private vendor, private entity is going to come, then almost the political representative who is familiar with these members, he will allot that entity to that person only. So as per our knowledge, we came to know that they have the actions. It means that they whatever they have done, it is not according to, it has created some damage to the public property, like construction of dams or bridges or railway tracks. Suppose, for instance, take place the privatization of trains has taken place from Lucknow to Delhi, I think, Tejas Express. So our as per Indian Railway Act, they have not abided their discipline of time. They have taken extra 2 hours of time for departing and for arrival at a particular station. So as per Indian Railway Act, they imposed around 1.6 million penalty to that Tejas Express. Okay. So due to it means that we are seeing these kind of private pitfalls in the privatization. So we should support. It is advised to the government that, sir, we should take a.
You have raised a very, very valid point. You see, the basic aspect of the civil service is that it is generalist in character. Please remember, it is generalist in character. And therefore, it requires awareness about multi-dimensional aspects of any particular matter. And understanding the interrelationships of such, matters is the basic skill of the civil servant. Let me explain. Construction of a hydel project in Assam, Lower Subansiri hydel project, very much in the news. Now, hydel project is a technological, kind of a work. You construct dams. But what are the other issues? How does it affect the downstream population? Deforestation, displacement of some forest dwellers, its impact on ecology, etc., etc. So, a civil service officer who is responsible for implementing such projects, in fact, every project has multi-dimensional aspects. So, understanding these interrelationships of matters which are seemingly unrelated is a skill that one has to develop. Whether you have this skill or not will be tested in the interview. That is, whether your outlook is narrow, based on a function. Now, this is where the difference between private sector employment and civil service exists. If you are working in Vodafone, your charter of duty is limited. But if you are working in the civil service, you have to take into account many aspects of a matter. So, every matter has multi-dimensional aspects. And each is interrelated. The understanding of the interrelationships is a part of your personality. Okay? Now, that skill has to be developed only by one quality: curiosity. Interest in matters which you may not have studied in your college, and converting every issue into an administrative issue. What are the points? Take for instance, flooding. You are in a district where floods have taken place. Now, you have a flood manual which lays down what one should do when there is flood or any natural calamity. So you must read that. Then, flooding affects different areas in a different way. Now, area, suppose, which is dependent on jute crop, might be badly affected. An area where only highland crops are grown, upland crops are grown, may not be affected by it. So when you take administrative action to deal with it, you have got to understand the diverse needs of the people and deal with these situations in a proper manner. Take for instance, if the cause of flooding is due to weakness of a dam or inadequacy of the network of channels for drainage of water, that also has to be appreciated. So therefore, the ability to take a total view, a comprehensive view of a problem is what civil service would expect from you. That intellectual, ability, resilience. You should be flexible enough. Your mind should be free to deal with wide range of subjects. Therefore, curiosity is a first quality. Interest in other cultures, other environments, societies, and not to have any preconceived kind of a notion or prejudice, or a feeling that whatever I have read is really the last thing in the world. No. You have got to acquire new subjects. You might have done mechanical engineering, but once you are posted in the state, you must understand agronomy, water management, and soil and water relationships, agriculture and marketing, pricing, post-harvest technology, processing of agro products, marketing, and the distribution of income, the value chain. So therefore, the primary requirement is to develop a wide range of interests. Your range of interest must be wide, not limiting to your region or whatever. Okay? So therefore, this intellectual curiosity is what is needed. And please remember, when you go for interview, it is a purpose-led conversation. The board has a purpose to select the best candidates, and you have a purpose to prove that you are the best. You are the best candidate. And these two objects must match. You are the suitable boy or suitable girl or whatever. So, what I would suggest that personality specific to the requirements of civil service requires a mind open to new ideas, not a closed mind. Closed mind is a dead mind. It cannot work. And therefore, when you have an open mind, the first characteristic is curiosity, then empathy, and finally, the ability to put it across in a concise manner so that it could be a base for taking actions. Not a kind of an emotional outburst or something, no. It must be action points. Now these action points reflect your administrative mind. From what we discussed about empathy, justice, fairness, which means that the administrative mind must be also quasi-judicial. This is one major difference between working in a private enterprise and working in the government. Whatever actions you take must be within the framework of laws, policies, regulations, keeping in view the public interest, public policy, welfare of the people. Therefore, your mind is not a technocratic mind. Your mind has to be a quasi-judicial mind. Any doubt on that? Yes.
Quasi-judicial is the term which we use in the tribunals, NGT tribunals, National Green Tribunal or Water Dispute Tribunal. These are the quasi-judicial bodies, no sir? So whether a civil servant can act as a quasi-judicial body?
Quasi-judicial means your functions must be in accordance with the rules and regulations. Okay. Now take for instance as an executive magistrate. You have the power under section 144 to impose restrictions on movement of people. In fact, curfew is ordered under section 44. How do you issue that order? Language is the same as developed earlier. I, so and so, your name. In exercise of powers conferred on me under section 144, do hereby declare following areas under this particular restriction, and no formation of people more than 5 shall be allowed. If there is a crowd of more than 5, it will be declared unlawful assembly. And you have the power to disperse an unlawful assembly by use of civil force. Also, 127 of the CRPC empowers the district magistrate to call upon the army in aid of civil power. And it is written, upon receipt of such a requisition, the army formation shall comply with it. So therefore, these powers are exercised under the laws. You have to apply your judicial mind, whether the behavior of the crowd is such that would require imposition of restrictions on their movement. You are taking a fundamental right. Therefore, one must be innovative and creative. I can, in a slightly lighter vein, we have been talking very serious. Let me tell you how an officer can be innovative and creative. In Assam, where I worked, there was an officer who was posted in an area close to a wildlife reserve. So one day, a number of elephants, herds of elephants, descended on the town, creating a serious problem. People are running here and there. How to deal with the problem? This officer applied his mind, and he put put it across, on a simple piece of paper as follows. Number one, elephants cannot be shot under Elephant Preservation Act. Under Elephant Preservation Act, you cannot shoot an elephant. Number two, I have consulted police, and the police have pleaded their helplessness because they are trained to deal with human beings, not elephants. Second, the lockups that we have in the jail cannot really accommodate elephants. He wrote, even if we have means to apprehend the elephants, putting them behind the bar is out of question. Third point is that elephants are not under any control of anyone other than themselves. They are a law unto themselves. Fourth point, I consulted the DFO, Division Forest Officer. He has expressed his anxiety about preservation of wildlife and environment and reminded me that under Wildlife Preservation Act and Forest Conservation Act, no action can be taken against the elephants. Their behavior might be rogue, but nothing can be done. So under these circumstances, I find the only course left, keeping in view the interest of the public. What is public interest? They should avoid any contact with elephant. It doesn't make sense. The elephants are moving around, why do you establish contact? So prevent them from establishing contact with the elephants in this kind of a situation. On careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, I am of the view the only provisions under section 144 can be applied. So I declare curfew. Okay? So how to enforce curfew? Easy. Elephants cannot be controlled, but human beings can be controlled. So what he did, he asked the district publicity officer in the police thana, take the jeep, go around and tell people that curfew has been imposed, you are not supposed to come out of your homes till such time I revise my order, or till such time I am pleased to revise my order. Okay? This is the kind of language you use. And it had a remarkable effect. People, wherever they are, those people who are opening their shops, they closed their shops, went back. After some time, the elephants went back to the jungles. So the curfew was withdrawn. So this is what you call application of your administrative mind to deal with the situation within the framework of existing laws, rules and regulations. This is also a quasi-judicial function. Why? Because you are restraining people from doing their business. Closing their shops might entail loss or whatever. So this, therefore, every action that you take, say as an income tax officer, you issue an order, there's an appeal. This is a quasi-judicial matter. Ultimately go to the board of revenue or whatever, like that. So understanding of law, appreciation of facts, innovative exercise of power, these are qualities expected of you. And these are founded on your having an open mind. That is important. Without that, you will be the prisoner of rules and regulations. Laws are there, but you have to apply your mind, depending on the requirements of a particular situation. Okay? So, personality means your capacity to react, respond, act in a given situation with full application of your mind. Okay? And that is very important. Ability to put it down in writing. That articulation in written form is also important. There are people who might have done their work, might do their work, but they won't be able to put it down. That is important. Articulation in speaking and articulation in writing. This requires a quasi-judicial mind. You have to create a mind attuned to implementation as per laws and policies. So understanding requires an open mind. Okay?
We forgot the trait of leadership, sir. So at the level of secretary or joint secretary level, we are the persons who make the formation of laws or any kind of policies at the government with the meeting of with the government. So I would like to give the situation where our former president of our India, Abdul Kalam ji, has said that while launching the missile, so he was a chairman. So at that time, while putting the orbit satellite in the orbit, it has gone to the Bay of Bengal. So a technical problem has arisen, but he has taken the risk, and so no problem. We have surplus amount of fuel. We can launch the satellite. He said that. So at that time, so this incident has happened. So our Abdul Kalam ji has hesitated to go in front of our media. But Abdul Kalam ji has said that Satish Dhawan, who is among the directors, that he has taken the firm step that I will take up the media, sir. So don't worry, he said that, and he has gone. And so, dear friends, we have failed today, but we will take the next step more coercively in a productive manner. He said that. So a second time after this incident, they have launched the satellite and it is successfully placed in the orbit. Okay, and Dhawan ji has said that, sir, you go to the media and then say that our missile is successful. So in this situation, the Dhawan sir has acted as a leader. Means that the hardships are, suppose policy implementation is not resulted in a desired way. So we must take the responsibility to face the media that we fail today. We implement the policy in a much more effective or constructive manner. Suppose the skill employment has been taken by the government. So our bureaucrats only are responsible for that policy implementation. But all the people are thinking that skill development or skill centers have established, but where the unemployment crisis has been decreased. But at the forehead level, it might be the chances that we realize, our youth realizes at certain point that we need to establish an incubation centers. So we have certain trades. So we have the ability
yes,
to do.
What is the focus?
The leadership is, we didn't erase the leadership point now, sir.
Now, you see, what is leadership? This brings me to the issue of DAF. You know, DAF is what you will be filling up. So I think, taking a cue of what you said, what are the qualities expected of a aspiring civil servant? The first quality is your ability to lead people. Because from day one, you will be leading. Now, there is one aspect which I should have mentioned earlier. When you discuss civil service, frankly, it's not a happy way that UPSC is advertising. Civil service here refers to central civil service. Civil service is a generic term. You have state civil service also. Okay? Isn't it? We have UP civil service, Bengal civil service. So what you are really trying to get into is not civil service per se, but you are trying to get into central civil service cadres. Okay? These are organized cadres of the central government. Now, when you go to UPSC, they will see whether, not whether you are suitable for a job. That's the difference. You are not appearing for interview for a job, for a lifetime's career. That's the difference. There's a huge difference. So what the board would like to see in you, I must tell you, is that whether this young man or young lady has the potential to reach the highest level. It's a lifetime's career. It's not a job for Reliance or Vodafone or whatever. So what are the qualities they would look for? Now we discussed at length about personality, etc. Now, the first quality is that whether he is prepared mentally and physically for a lifetime's career in the civil service. Now, in your DAP, your job experience is there. Okay? So they might ask you about the kind of job that you did. Suppose you had worked in the private sector, they might ask you, your company, what was the share capital? How it is performing in the share market? What job were you doing? Did you like that job? Why do you wish to switch over? Therefore, your answer to that must be sensible. Why are they asking this question? Because they'd like to see how your personality has developed over the last few years before you appeared in the course of your work with a particular organization. Second, your career, the medals that you had won. Because as I said in the beginning, personality is the sum total of all these. It's not a specific qualification. Suppose you had done a short training program in Germany. So one would like to know, what did you do in Germany? And what did you see in Germany? They might ask you about the refugee crisis, European Union, if you had been to London, Brexit, if you had gone to Dubai, then how is the economic organization over there? Why is Dubai emerging as a kind of a global center of trade and commerce? In other words, whether you keep your eyes and ears open, that's important. So, whole purpose is to see whether you have the capacity to lead. So leadership quality is the sum total of your character, your articulation, your analytical capacity, your curiosity, your interest in other cultures. Now how important is this? And attention to details. Take for instance, I have interesting experience. I asked one candidate, who wrote Bande Mataram? He knew the answer. So he said, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. I asked him, who was he, by the way? A great poet. I said, look, to my knowledge, the only poem he wrote was Bande Mataram. Being a Bengali, I read all his books. Now, what I would expect an aspiring civil servant is to know a little bit. Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay was among the first officials recruited to the Bengal Civil Service as a deputy magistrate. He retired as a loyal servant of the government. Okay. So this bit of curiosity is required. Another candidate gave me a frightening reply when I asked him about the same. He said, Muhammad Iqbal. Iqbal was innocent of Sanskrit. Like that. Therefore, avoid guesswork. Now, if you make guesswork, chances are that you will be wrong in 90% cases. And this will reflect on your integrity, intellectual integrity. Therefore, character, and personality are interrelated. See, people who will be there in the board are old people, much younger than me, nevertheless. When a person crosses 55 years of age, 50, 55 years of age, he becomes conservative. He is not a revolutionary. Fire has been put out long back. Such people, men and women, tend to be conservative and a bit cynical because they have seen life. So they would expect that a candidate should not give a pat reply. you are under no compulsion to say what you don't know. If you make a guesswork, it might be disastrous. So therefore, leadership quality is judged as a combination of several traits. One such trait is this. Say I played cricket. Fine. What is googly? Then if you say I don't know. What is dead ball? I don't know. Then it is necessary that whatever you have put down in your DAP, you should know about the details to be able to answer any question. But if you give correct reply, you might immediately establish a rapport with the board member, which will go in your favor. So what the board will try to do is that your personality is reflected, as I said in the beginning, the way you speak, the way you argue, because that reflects your thinking process. Your mind should be free from prejudice and from certain qualities, weaknesses. Now, overcoming these weaknesses, which are very common, is really building of personality. Weakness is there. There is a natural tendency to bluff. I cannot blame. But at the same time, one must be very, very objective. You get my point? Because, as I said, it is a purpose-led conversation. You have a purpose and board have a purpose. These two purposes must match, right? So, you must listen to the matter raised, give a thought, take a minute or two, not minute, a few moments, then you make your point. It's not necessary to respond immediately, because the people who will be the board, they share a British adage. A man who gives a pat reply is not really reliable. This is how the Brits think, and much of their thoughts and prejudices we have inherited. Just as a man is known by the shoe he wears. So, no sports shoes. You must wear a shoe with lace shoes. The suit you wear should be what I am wearing, grey, business suit. Shirt should be invariably white. Did you ever see Xi Jinping wearing anything other than white shirt? I have not seen. So therefore, I would suggest you watch Channel News Asia from Singapore. The way they speak English and the way we talk. They speak, we talk. There's a world of difference. You see? And the way they construct sentences. The way the Chinese and the Japanese in Singapore, they dress. Invariably you will see dark suit, white shirt, striped tie or spotted, black shoes. So personality is the sum total of how you present yourself. And that should begin with the way you fill up your DAP. In the DAP, you have to put your photograph. That will be the first thing the board member will see. Okay? What kind of dress did you wear when you went to the studio and get yourself photographed? Suppose on your T-shirt, you have loudly proclaimed, I love America. It will not miss the attention of the board members. Or I love New York, or something more difficult. So you should be prepared to face this. In other words, when you look at yourself, you must see that you must present yourself as a reasonable person who understands Rawls' concept of justice, who understands categorical imperative, Immanuel Kant, and who has confidence in himself. And if you don't know, you say, I don't know. We'll switch on some other matter. So it is this sum total of your presence and presentation which would leave an impression, I mean a positive impression, on the minds of the board members. Okay? Any question on this? Any other area that you would like me to highlight? You must also know the places you hail from. Suppose you are from Balia of UP. If there is a professor of history in the board, he might ask you, why is Balia famous in freedom struggle? I'm sure you know. 1942. It's not enough you say parallel government. It will make no sense. So you say, sir, during August movement, Balia was liberated. People of Balia liberated themselves and set up a parallel government. So this is how you should put it across, you know. So it shows that you not only, you are rooted to the soil, you know the place and the people. Like that. Small details, the school that you had gone to. Dayanand DAV school, DAV college. What does DAV stand for? Who was Dayanand? Yes, but who was he? Founder of Arya Samaj. Then a few things like where was he born? What was Arya Samaj movement? How is it different from like that? You know, like that. But suppose you don't know, then avoid answers like this. Who was Swami Dayanand? Sir, he was a great man. It is unlikely to help. So during mock, we tell them, avoid these replies. You see, so the board will judge the way your mind works. Means you feel compelled to give a reply. Therefore, you come out with something. I'm quite fond of repeating my experience. A lady who had gone to Lady Shriram College, I asked her, who was Lady Shriram, by the way? The answer is the wife of Lord Shriram. This is disastrous. We will agree. This will be disastrous. Okay? So therefore, a little bit of curiosity, which I mentioned right from the beginning. Curiosity is important. A spirit of inquiry, interest in other cultures, other environments is absolutely required. Therefore, when you read newspapers, magazines, etc., look into the details and have a notebook. Maintain a notebook and note down whatever you feel is not very clear to you and check your references. Yes, tell me.
So, would you highlight how far hobbies and extracurricular activities shapes your personality and all this?
Yes. Hobbies and extracurricular activities are integral parts of your personality. Okay. Now, there's a difference between hobby and extracurricular activities. This difference you must understand. The hobbies are independent of extracurricular activities. Take stamp collecting. If it is a hobby, it's not a part of your extracurricular activities. So you have to understand the subtle difference. Say if it is cricket, but once you mention that it is a part of your extracurricular activities, remember, you are expected to pursue it even now. Sir, I played cricket 20 years ago. That's not going to help. So if you say it is my activity, extracurricular activity, then you have to show that yes, I am playing cricket still now, like that. Because there is a danger. If you say I am playing cricket now, you ought to know about cricket. And they may ask you about BCCI, professionalization of cricket, you know, and commercialization of sports. So related issues must be always borne in mind. What I'm saying is that normally one question leads to some other questions. So therefore, whatever you mentioned in your gap, you should be able to stand by it. Say music. Then the question will be, what kind of music? Classical, Western? Okay?
Sir?
Yeah.
Does the job profile that one has had before attempting the civil services, it has something to do with the final PT scores?
Of course, very much so, because it shows you are not a greenhorn. You understand what greenhorn means? You are not a fresh man. You have already done some work. So therefore, one would like to see in what way you made use of your stint, say with Reliance or Infosys or whatever, and whether you took adequate interest in the organization you worked. What job was given to you? Did you like the job? Did you like the work environment? And do you understand the role of your company in the overall economic situation? So therefore, the idea is that whether your mind was limited to your limited job, or whether your mind was broad enough to encompass the environment. Take Bangalore. If you are posted in Bangalore, one would like to know what are the important places. Someone was posted in Madras. I would not like to call it Chennai. I would call it Madras. In Madras, have you been to Marina Beach? What did you see there? What are the institutions on the marina? Like that. Or you have been to Adyar? Are you aware of Theosophical Society? Like that. So the idea of knowing your job details, I mean your previous experience, is to relate you to the job and to see whether you have been enriched. Everything that you do in life either enriches you or demeans you. That's what life is all about. So to what extent you have a positive attitude to life, that's what is important. That is extremely important. And the way you express it would make it amply clear. Okay? Any other question? Yeah.
You said if we don't know any question, you said we must have the courage to say no. Sir, there may be situations that we don't know the answers to the multiple questions. So what can we do in that?
Very good question. You see, please remember, this is not a cross-examination in a court. It is not a quiz competition that Barry O'Brien or Derek O'Brien might be conducting. No. It is not a quiz competition. It is not a cross-examination. Okay? The whole purpose is to engage you into a conversation. So if you don't know, sir, I don't know, then surely the board with all the 5 members would be able to find out a subject that might interest you and them to engage into some kind of a conversation. So therefore, you have to cooperate. But if you try to give something, tell something we don't know, my question is, why should a rational man say something that he doesn't know? Why? Why make a guesswork? What is the compulsion? So avoid that. One of my batchmates, a very distinguished diplomat, Ronen Sen, was our ambassador in US. His first 5 minutes of interview, he only said, I don't know. Finally, they found out a matter which he knew. So therefore, don't be under any kind of a feeling that you are under compulsion to say something. No. That will reflect poorly on your character. They'll say, this man is prone to tell things he doesn't know. Or he is indulging in guesswork. In administration, guesswork is not done. Because everything is codified based on rules, regulations. I gave you the example of 144. How a person who has full understanding of section 144 and the spirit of the law could apply it in such a innovative manner. Isn't that? So that should be the golden rule. Because they might say, this gentleman is trying to bluff, saying things he doesn't know. That's not fair. Okay? Now, on civil service, you also ought to know how it was formed. Who is the founder of the Civil Service of India? Why? Why do you say Lord Cornwallis founded? What was it? What did he do? Okay, now as an IAS officer, former IAS officer, we consider Warren Hastings, who created the institution of district magistrate and collectors in Bengal presidency. What Cornwallis did, he created the institution of district judges. Also, he created 4 posts of superintendents of police. But the beginning of the system that you have was really when Hastings was Governor General, okay, in 1773. Later on, you can think of Lord Macaulay, who enacted the Indian Penal Code and all that. Now, and Lord William Bentinck. This entire ethos of the civil service over the years have been, and its systems and procedures that it developed have been primarily modeled on the British laws and procedures. Therefore, it is necessary for you to understand what common law is all about. Now, nothing really had changed substantially. So it will be useful for you to look into the recommendations of administrative, ARC, etc., which you must know. But remember that the changes that have taken place in local self-governance, Panchayati Raj institutions, Nagar Palika. So these things you must know, 73rd Amendment, 74th Amendment, and certain special areas like 6th Schedule of the Indian Constitution. The areas which are under 6th Schedule, what are the special parts? There are of course current issues like Article 370 and whatever. So you are expected to be alive to the current issues and the challenges that the nation is facing. And on economic matters, you need a separate lecture. I would don't tell you that look into the trade wars between US and China, India-China economic relations. You see, the concept of Indo-Pacific, which is emerging, and the role of regional initiatives like BIMSTEC, BBIN, etc., and the relationship between the foreign policy and the economic interaction of nations. So when you look into this whole spectrum, you will get inputs, ideas, which will build up your confidence. But confidence must be backed up by character and your understanding of the importance of cultivation of values relevant to the civil service. Okay? Now this we have discussed. Now there are 2 values I would like to mention. One is a bit skeptical attitude. One should not be taken for a ride. Ideas in public domain keep on changing, but the civil servant has to maintain neutrality, a bit of detachment from this. That is essential. In Greek philosophy, it is called skepticism. Second quality that is required is an attitude of cynicism. Cynic is a person who takes a dim view of things. But cynicism is a Greek idea. That is, in simple language, it means the more things change, the more they remain the same. So, as a civil servant, we know the governments may come and go. But we are to preserve, protect, and maintain the system. Okay. So loyalty to the system, to the constitution, to the rule of law is your abiding value. That must be borne in mind. Schemes may come and go. Ideas keep on floating. I remember years ago when Garibi Hata was the slogan, we had a meeting at the State Secretariat. The Chief Minister was bubbling with enthusiasm. He expressed his deep concern, anguish. Why so many people are poor? So finally, we listened to him with all seriousness. Then finally the question was, what could be done? The bureaucratic mind comes to, sir, yes, poverty should be eradicated. Then it was pointed out that some funds are there under 20-point program. He wanted whether these funds could be increased. Answer was that, sir, the funds cannot be increased unless there is additional fund from Government of India. What should I do? So, sir, please write a letter to Union Finance Minister. Then he asked, what will Union Finance Minister do? Sir, he will ask his Finance Secretary whether additional funds could be given to you as a special case. So then he was persuaded that the best course would be not to do anything immediately. Yeah? We should try to make full use of whatever funds have been passed on to us under 20-point program of Government of India. So an ambitious anti-poverty program within the budgetary constraints is not possible. So in the midst of the meeting, he was not convinced. He said, the bureaucrats, these are suited, booted, English-speaking people. So let me call the Finance Secretary. Finance Secretary was a Tamil Brahmin officer, R.S. Parameshivan is known. Mr. Parameshivan is a man of a very cool kind of a temperament. He is unruffled. So Mr. Parameshivan came and he gave a patient hearing. He said, Mr. Parameshivan, can we help? I said, sir, he said, we have a resource gap problem. Our maintenance expenditure has exceeded the allocation. So, sir, I am unable to find any savings. So, do you agree with this suggestion then that I should write to Government of India? He says, sir, on careful consideration, I find this is the only course left. I cannot provide any extra money for this program within the limitations of the planned budget and the non-planned budget. Therefore, a bureaucrat should not tide with the wave. You should not join but you must maintain your cool. This quality is best acquired when you have attention to details. And that has to be cultivated. The board would like to see whether you have that kind of a personality. Okay? Yeah. The question is, yeah, good question, very good question. What will you answer? Tell me. Yes, of course, because you asked the question. Is that the reason for you to join IAS? It is not, because IAS is a cadre. Suppose you are posted in Nagaland. Will this question be relevant?
After 10 years, I may get a transfer, na?
How do you say? You may be so brilliant that the state government may not like to spare you. Quite possible. Please say, what is your question?
That what should be our basic approach towards this question? That why do you want to become a civil servant?
Okay. Answer is very simple. Sir, I would like to be part of the system of governance of this country. This is the system of governance of this country and contribute my might to the, whatever you like to say, progress of this country. Because basically what is IAS? IAS is an all India service common to the center and the states. Okay? Now, what is the primary role of the IAS? Governance. So why do you bring in all kinds of things which are unrelated to governance immediately? And of course, a lifetime's career means you will start from a certain, and it depends on various circumstances. Okay? I remember an IAS officer who worked in ISRO. He was posted in rural development. And After that, he became in charge of intensive cattle development, ICDP. Now, ICDP is a very important thing. At that time, this Amul model was being replicated under Operation Flood program. So, in government, everything is important. Do you think cows are unimportant? The Gau Rakshaks are everywhere. So, it's a very sensitive job. So, therefore, if this question is asked, Mr. So-and-so, you are a mechanical engineer or whatever, why do you wish to join IAS? And you have worked in the private sector. The answer would be very simple. Sir, I would like to be part of this system of governance of the country and contribute to the progress and welfare of the country. That's all. One sentence, good enough. That would.
But mechanically, if we say the same thing, all the people who go to the interviews, mechanically they say the same thing. There won't be any compatibility between the.
You see, answer is simple. The way you say is as important as what you say. This is why your emotion, your involvement will be seen by the board. That's my answer. Because people can, they're old people, they know whether this gentleman is telling you the truth. From your face it will be apparent. Okay. Now, I should talk about the ladies when they appear for interview and what kind of personality be expected of them. Because I have talked in general terms. First and foremost thing that once you enter, you must remember that you are being considered for appointment to the highest cadres of the central government, the elite. And what is meant by an elite cadre? I should have mentioned to you earlier, but let me just tell you, the jobs that you are trying to get in come under what is called higher civil service. There's a definition of Organization of European Cooperation and Development, OECD, where it is defined as a structured and recognized system of personnel for the higher non-political positions of the government. It is a career civil service providing people to be competitively appointed to functions that cover policy advice, operational delivery, or corporate service delivery. The service is centrally managed through appropriate institutions and procedures in order to provide stability and professionalism of the core group of senior civil servants, but also allowing the necessary flexibility to match changes in the composition of government by using appropriate due processes. What it means is that you are a part of the highest level of the government, and board will consider whether you could reach to the highest position. You have the potential. Third is that whether you have the necessary personality to lead a department. And this fundamentally requires, again, your ability to lead. So first you should dress properly. It's not a fashion statement that you're going to make. And remember Mrs. Indira Gandhi, the way she dressed, the way she conducted meeting, the way she talked. You see, when she passed away, the Economist of London carried a special issue, not special issue, a cover issue, and there was a photograph of Mrs. Gandhi. I have kept this copy today. Death of an empress. Death of an empress. That was her demeanor. Okay? So, you should dress in a sober manner, but don't be flippant. Behave as a person who could lead. Lead men who are generally unruly. You see? And lady officers in IAS have the reputation of being very tough. One of my colleagues was so scared of a lady officer that one day he moved in, got in and said, "Good morning, sir." Madam was furious. He said, "Madam, it is a slip of tongue, but out of deference to your standing as a leader of the government. But therefore, lady officers like, say, Mrs. Sarala Grewal, was Secretary to the Prime Minister, they have distinguished themselves. And then what you have to do is that it's not that you should behave like a man, no, but be logical, be precise, and at the same time, be to the point. And when you make a point, you make a point with confidence, as though you believe in it firmly. So it is your character, your ability to lead, which will be the primary requirement. And most of you have it in good measure. It's a question of cultivating, preparing yourself for the eventual test. Okay? Any other issue you'd like to raise? No? Yeah, tell me.
Sir, sometimes we have a habit of moving hands while explaining something. So does it good or bad?
I'm good. I'm glad you mentioned it. You see, first of all, your hands don't speak. You speak from your mouth. It's not hand. So hand movement is a kind of a mannerism popularized by the TV programs. Even BBC, you'll see many of them do hand movements. But it is better you avoid it. Restrict it to minimum. There is no need. Okay? But more importantly, eye contact is important. Eye contact means there are 5 people. So you should not focus your eyes on the member asking questions. No. You are dealing with the entire board. So your eye contact should be moving from one to another, so that you are a part of the proceedings. Okay? It's not a man-to-man or one-to-one encounter. It has to be a discussion. Therefore, this requires a relaxed kind of an approach. You should be relaxed. Right? So, if you have any other question, then I can call it a day. You see, before I close, let me tell you again what I said in the beginning, that I admire your courage, your determination, and your will to work hard. Keep up your efforts. You see, in life, things don't work out always according to your expectations. But then, sometimes, luck plays an important role in life. But what is luck? What is luck really? I thought of this aspect when I was preparing, later when I joined service. I came across an answer in one of the poems of Sri Aurobindo, which I'm fond of quoting whenever I get a chance. What is luck? Why some people succeed and some don't? It is written in a little Latinized English. Let me quote. Well, before that, you see what he wanted to say, he said, was that when you take the decision to sit for the examination with several hundred thousands of people, you respond to a command of God. You respond to the command of God that you should try, even though it's a very difficult proposition, isn't it? So your decision to sit for the examination, you may not be aware, is your response to your inner voice, a diktat from God. You respond to the will. What will you do then? Sri Aurobindo said, I quote, when thou hast the command, when thou hast the command, care only to fulfill it. Care only to fulfill it. Rest is God's will and blessings, which men call luck, chance, or fortune. Unquote. Sri Aurobindo was selected for appointment to the Indian Civil Service in the year of our Lord 1889, and he obtained 11th rank. So he was also a civil servant, though he did not join. So this particular stanza of his poem tells me that you all have responded to the command of God. Care only to fulfill it by hard work, and rest is God's will and blessings, which men call luck, chance, or fortune. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I have great pleasure in talking to you, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors. And if there is anything more I can do it to help you, please feel free to contact Mr. Ajay and Vision IAS. I thank Mr. Ajay for the opportunity to interact with young people. Thank you. God bless you. Oh yes, yes, yes. You can. My number is 9811 733 109. Yeah.